Welcome back to Not to Talk About, Notts County podcast. Back again for another episode. Before we dive into all the results and the transfer news, I want to ask how are you doing, mate?
Well, I think I'm all right. As you can tell just by how I started that sentence, my voice isn't exactly recovered from yesterday, courtesy of David McGoldrick, but I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm happy to be back. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm glad to be talking about a win. And let's just get straight into that. Let's start with that result at Swindon. It's not been our happiest hunting ground, you could say. The last couple of times we've been there obviously haven't been great. Even last season was very poor, probably the worst game of football I've ever seen. It was not great quality, and if we're going to be honest, it wasn't a fantastic quality game on the weekend either. What did you make of before we get into the moments, what did you make of the overall performance, but also of the fact that we've come away with 3 points, even though we're talking about performance that, a lot of the time we come on here and we talk about performance and we say, we performed well, or that's what we're looking for. But ultimately, we've come away yesterday with 3 points after not playing probably at our best. So how do you reflect on that?
Well, we certainly weren't at our best. I mean, that is an absolute given, but I feel like the best way I can put it before diving into it on the face value is if we'd came away with a point, we'd have been very fortunate to do so, because I thought we were second best for large spells of the game. But to come away with all three, you probably call it the typical away performance now. So, and for me, oh my goodness, sorry guys, I'm on my voice, but yeah, for me, like that game last season, we'd lose 100%, not 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10 if we're being honest. But yeah, I mean, the difference is now we're seeing that Notts can do both sides of the game. We can win dirty and win playing beautiful football. I think defensively yesterday as well, for the record, I thought we really put a foot wrong, other than obviously for their goal, which is very reassuring. Even though they did have quite a few half chances, they obviously created a lot of chances that led to corners, which obviously leads to momentum as well. Never really felt too in danger of conceding. I felt if the game would continue 10 more minutes with their dominance, they probably would have found a winner themselves, but obviously they didn't, and we did. But yeah, I think, especially when you consider the Tranmere game as well, when we was away from home and backs against the wall for some parts of the game as well, we defended well then, we defended well again yesterday. Big positives, mate, and it's another win, like you're saying. We're one of 3 teams now left unbeaten in League 2, which is, I mean, if you offer me that at the start of the season after 4 games, I'd have absolutely snapped your hand off. So, can't be nothing but positive, really.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think a big thing you mentioned there, a really good point, is about the away performance and the away record. Like in the National League, that was a big part of what Luke Williams got right, was that away from home we were so good, and that's why we were up there. Last season, our away form was really poor, and I think if we're going to need to be up there again this season, we're going to have a strong away record. And so far, yeah, it's, perhaps you don't expect it on the road to always play your best. At Meadow Lane, we know we're going to be, majority of the time, we're going to be the better team. But away from home is where you really see what teams are made of, and I think we've shown a lot of resilience so far. Another great point you made there was the chances that Swindon created or didn't create. There was not really any massively clear-cut chances. Even the goal was kind of, you would say a half chance. Really good strike, to be fair. And all 3 goals, we're going to talk about all 3, of course, all really good strikes. I think this one from Kilkenny probably is going to go under the radar because of the result. What did you make of the goal? Obviously, a mistake playing out from the back. I think all afternoon, really, the play out from the back wasn't brilliant, but got caught playing out. We've seen that many times before. But in fairness to Notts and to Alex Bass, it's a hell of a strike, isn't it, from Kilkenny?
It was. It was one of them where you think fair play. You can't really have too many complaints other than the fact that it was from an error, you would say. I can't really pinpoint the blame on anyone. It was a mix of a few things, but I think on face value, it probably looks like it's Jackie and Chi's fault. I definitely wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say, like I said, I wouldn't say it was anyone's fault. It was just, how it's been the same for 3. Well, 2 seasons and the start of this one now. You know how Notts are going to try and play. Always going to try and play it out from the back. That's what we tried, and we got caught, and it led to a goal. And that's the thing with this football, is everyone knows it's high risk, high reward. And obviously the strike was unbelievable. You got to give him the credit where it's due. It's not an easy skill to ping it into the far corner, really, 25 yards out, especially with someone like Alex Bass's goal as well. So yeah, very good goal. And at that point, I thought, oh, this could be a long day. Not only because obviously Swindon, and it's notorious for us to do bad at this ground, but we didn't start the game very well. But again, like I said, we won the game, so I'm obviously happy about that. But their goal was unbelievable, and that was a player who literally signed the day before. So to do that in your first 20 minutes for your new team is a way to make your mark. So fair play to him.
No, definitely. What a debut for him. But kind of the opposite end of his career, I suppose, the man that won the game for Notts, David McGoldrick. Lots to unpack here. Obviously, 2 fantastic goals. If you haven't seen them already, go and watch them. Unbelievable from him. And we'll probably dive into those in a little bit more detail. But let's just talk about before the game. Alassana Jatta's out of the team. Last time we were at Swindon, he was probably the only positive coming out of that game was Jatta. You know, he scored off the bench, and that was kind of the game, I think, where we said, you know, Jatta's got to start every game now. Like he's really influential, and obviously this season he will start kind of if he's available. But David McGoldrick has been given his chance, and he's taken it with both hands. 2 unbelievable goals. What did you make of it before the game kicked off? Obviously, seeing that Jatta was out of the team, and then what did you think about David McGoldrick's not just his goals but his performance as well? Because obviously, really leading the line and showing his leadership qualities for the team.
Well, I mean, before the game, there was obviously on the bus. There's a few like people being all questionable about the choice to start Didzy. Obviously, Jatta wasn't available, so obviously, you know, I always felt, and I was having this conversation prior to the team coming out, that if Jatta was to miss a game and it was between Didzy and Scott, it would be Didzy that starts, and it was Didzy that started. And there was a few people that were concerned about it, but I just said quite simply that this guy was scoring goals in League One for fun, like a few seasons ago, and last season he chipped in with a fair number as well. Like, and although maybe you could say he's not, you know, the David McGoldrick he used to be, but obviously that's just the typical. It comes with age. Right? He's still going to score goals for you, and look what he did yesterday. And I mean, the goals, obviously, we'll get into it more, but the goals were quality strikes. Like, that's their top level finishes. And in a game, really, that we didn't create too much for Didzy across the floor into the air to create them 2 chances for himself, pretty much out of nothing, you would say, in terms of, like, there was no, you know, clear sort of cross or pass to him. It was more straight to his feet, and he did the rest. So to score the 2 goals that he did, and not only that, to step up into that role, that is probably not the most custom to Didzy. It was definitely it's definitely a role that it suits Jatta more, just because of obviously his size, his build, and probably his better athleticism. But to fit Didzy in there, who, other than his 2 goals, I mean, he said it himself, it weren't his best performance, but it weren't Notts' best performance either. The whole team didn't perform particularly well. But he walks away as a hero, and rightfully so, because the 2 goals were amazing, and he definitely deserves it, because he hasn't probably had the minutes that he's wanted this season so far. But I'll tell you one thing for free now, is that there's going to be a headache on this upcoming Saturday against Accrington Stanley about who you start and who you drop. If obviously Jatta, for me, Jatta, if he comes back into if he's available for the team, he has to start. I feel like that's the case, but I don't think he dropped Didzy. So yeah, he's got a headache now, Stuart, but it's better than the headaches he had last season. Let's put it that way.
No, definitely better than the ones he had last season. I mean, the goals themselves are unbelievable. I think the fact that he obviously shifted the ball on his right foot for the first one, really nice, opens up the angle, and then the second one, similar touch, not quite as obvious. But what I think was really telling about the goals was the fact that, last season, that's probably one of the criticisms you could have of Didzy, was that he didn't pull the trigger often enough. He'd get in a position, he'd go to shoot, and then he'd cut back, and he would, kind of do a fake shot, or cut it back and then look to pass. Whereas yesterday, both goals, he shoots straight away. Like he doesn't allow the keeper to set himself. It's very, very, very quick, and that's why he's able to bend those into the far corner, and score those goals. So yeah, unbelievable from him. Another video that went round was him with George Abbott after the game, sort of allowing Abbott to do the fist pump to the travelling support. Just a touch of class from Didzy, isn't it? Just showing his character, not just his character in terms of off the pitch, but also on the pitch. Like you say, not his best performance, but 2 moments of quality was enough to win us the game.
100%. 100%. I think everyone wanted Didzy to do that, staff and fans included, but it's never really ever been his thing, like to do that sort of thing. Not even just at Notts, but everywhere else he's been. Like I can't remember ever seeing any clips or any like footage of Didzy doing something like that, and it just shows now that he's at that stage of his career where he'd rather put, the young and upcoming players over. I mean, George Abbott played 10 minutes yesterday, 10 good minutes as well, to be fair to him. But Didzy wanted him to go and do it, and I feel like it says a lot, not only about the morale of the team at the minute, but also the character of David McGoldrick. Everyone knows the kind of guy he is, but he never wants to be the centre of attention, even though he deserved to be yesterday. And I think the moment at the end was brilliant. Anyway, I think it was just the roar when the full-time whistle went. When it was just amazing, and the celebrations after it as well was even better. So yeah, absolutely. Just it's obviously brilliant from Didzy for what he did. I think obviously again, like George Abbott, comes straight from a Premier League academy. It was probably his first time experiencing something like that yesterday. And yeah, to get that moment at the end was special, and it's only going to do the world of confidence to him. And obviously, again, the 2 goals for Didzy ain't going to make him lose any either. So it's a win-win for both parties, really.
Yeah, for sure. And another player that I think outside of Didzy yesterday was a standout was Alex Bass in goal. Made a lot of key saves. I think also another thing to note is some of the saves, they look easier than they are. A few of them bounced just before him, and it would have been easy for him to spill that. Maybe other keepers we've had over the last couple of years might have done that or palmed it away or not been as assured as he was between the sticks. How important is it to have that keeper that we can trust, and how good was Alex Bass against Swindon?
He's the exact reason why I was crying out for a goalkeeper of that calibre, because it's the difference it makes is staggering. Like, I don't even know where to start by explaining it. I feel like the 0-0 draw at Tranmere on the opening day of the season, like the confidence he gave in the back line to come out and claim crosses to save the shots, was the reason that that clean sheet was so easy to grasp in the end. Yesterday, when we go 2-1 up and you got 10 minutes and extra time to see out, Bass again claiming crosses, and holding on to shots, like you say, bang straight in front of him, skids in front of him. I don't know what fee was paid for Alex Bass, but if it's 5 digits, 6 digits, it don't really matter, because every single penny was very well spent. It's as simple as that. I mean, for their goal, he could really, it was a brilliant strike. We've gone over that. There's not much any goalkeeper can do with something like that. But just the ability he has to come out and claim crosses so comfortably, and not even just that. It's when the ball beats our final defender, which is naturally Matty Platt, and who's there straight away? Alex Bass. He's there every single time, off his line straight away. And this is a goalkeeper now that we're looking at. And like I said on social media yesterday, like, you're probably looking at the most important signing of our summer, because everybody knows about how how the goalkeeper situation was last season, where obviously we didn't know who was going to start in goal. We know this season now that it's going to be Alex Bass, and we know that we're going to be okay if Alex Bass is in goal, because his shot stopping ability, his ability, is just overall ability as a goalkeeper is levels above what we have had in recent times. And like I've alluded to many times on this podcast, every single promoted team has that goalkeeper that they play for 44, 45, 46 games of the season. He will be that guy. Obviously, again, touch wood, no injuries, but like I say, goalkeepers can win you games of football, and arguably he won us that game. Obviously, again, yes, Didzy's goal's brilliant, but you got two things in football. You got to be good at putting it in the back of the net and keeping it out of your own. And Alex Bass certainly helps us keep it out of our own. And yesterday he did that absolutely faultlessly. So yeah, I'm very happy. Don't get me wrong, I'm very happy with it.
Another new signing I wanted to quickly talk about was Curtis Edwards, just because last time we were on here, we were both quite critical of him, probably myself more so, with his penalty and things like that. But since that game, obviously he had an okay performance yesterday against Swindon. I think everyone, like we've touched on already, the whole side was below par. But against Grimsby, I think for me, he was, if not man of the match, outside of, obviously outside the obvious with Dan Crowley, he was probably the best player on the pitch. Curtis Edwards, he was unbelievable in and out of possession. So just quickly, what have you made of him? Obviously, like you sort of predicted on the pod, you said that he's got the experience to pick himself up and go again after that penalty miss, and he did exactly that. So another one for your correct predictions, really.
Well, I mean, we can make a catalogue of those if you like, but no, I think Curtis Edwards, the Grimsby performance was superb yesterday. I didn't feel like it was probably that sort of game for someone like Curtis Edwards, because naturally his role is not really get on the ball too much, but just he kind of just creates the space. He keeps moving, he keeps dragging players out. And when you play against a team like Swindon, who just stays so compact, it was pretty hard to get him into the game, which probably explains why he was taken off yesterday. But I think with Curtis Edwards, like when we signed him, it was always he was never just going to be here to make the numbers up. Everyone knew that he was going to play a big role, and he's playing a big role at the minute. Well, there'll be more and more games this season where we come on here and we talk about the impact of Curtis Edwards and how his performance influenced the victory or influenced getting us back into the game, etc. So, although it didn't really work out for him yesterday, albeit Swindon were just trying to keep Notts at arm's length all the time, really, keep us in front of him. It just wasn't really his game yesterday. But again, like you say, the Grimsby performance especially was superb, and I feel like now we're in a position where we've got a lot of good players, and obviously only 18 of them can make a matchday squad. So you're gonna have to upset some by leaving them out, but I mean, we're in a lot better position this season now than what we were last season, so you can say that. And players like Curtis Edwards, your Jackie and Cheesy, your Conor Grants, they're not world-beating signings, but these are the players you need. And you'll look at the end of the season, when you've had a successful season, you feel like, yeah, they really played their part. So I'm very happy with not only the transfer recruitment, which obviously, again, we're going to get onto, but just a squad now as well. And I feel like you're starting to see the Stuart Maynard's Notts County, and obviously we're still unbeaten. We've got 2 wins on the bounce now. Sorry, that is my phone going off in the middle of a podcast. That is your reminder to always mute your phone when you're doing something like this. Well, no, yeah, look, we're starting to see Stuart Maynard's Notts County now, and now that he's got his team, we're getting the results, and yeah, you've got to be happy. You've got to be happy.
Yeah, at least you lasted 20 minutes into the podcast for your phone going off. Just to let you on a secret, the viewers, we lasted 5 seconds and mine went off. So in the last recording, so we're going to obviously have to restart that one, so it's fine. Don't worry. We've already touched on George Abbott, but another debut yesterday was Kellen Gordon. Just quickly, how good is it to see him start his debut, and give us that sort of natural option on the right hand side, you know. And obviously Jody again was good from the right, put a couple of decent crosses in, but it's nice to see Kellen Gordon come into the side, isn't it?
100%. 100%. And don't get me wrong, I didn't think he was fantastic yesterday, but that's his first display of the season, and he's probably a bit behind in terms of where he needs to be. He's only going to get better, but I thought he was still good enough, and he offered a lot going down that right hand side. He defensively was solid, and going forward, he offers you that pace and that drive, that attacking ability as a fullback. But the one thing I did really like about Kenny Gordon was the fact that he was getting all sorts of abuse from the Swindon fans after, because what he wouldn't, obviously, people who haven't seen the game back in full yet, Kellen went down injured. Well, not injured, you know how it goes. They get tackled, go down holding their ankles. Notts get the ball back and he gets back up straight away. And then obviously that don't go down on the Swindon fans. But then when McGoldrick bends it in for the winner, Kellen Gordon turns around straight away and gives it back to the Swindon fans. And you might be thinking, why do I like that? Why do I like that? But this is exactly the sort of mentality that we've lacked so long. We've spent so long being a nice, respectful team, and we've got players now that are good footballers, but they are, you know, they are good idiots at the same time, and I love that. So, yeah, Kellen Gordon for me probably weren't his finest display, but a promising one that you know he's only going to build off and get better, and he's going to be a very important player for Notts County this season. So, yeah, again, a massive positive other than the victory was to get him onto the pitch, to get him to make his debut, and yeah, we're looking in a good place. So times are moving forward, you should say.
No, 100%. And another debut we may see soon is Giovanni Brown, who we signed on deadline day. Just we're going to talk about him. I want to quickly just get my point across, and I don't want to sort of bring it up again in terms of, I'm not going to comment too much on sort of his personal life. Obviously, when the announcement was made, it kind of is divided opinion within the fan base, I think. And again, it's not for us to really talk about on here. You can go and search his name up and do sort of the reading, etc. yourself. I commented it's not really for me, and in terms of, you know, he wouldn't be on my radar of signing. Nothing to do with his footballing abilities. I'm sure we'll talk about it. Of course, he's shown himself to be a fantastic footballer. Obviously, it's something that is a sensitive topic, and obviously one that we want to handle with the correct care, because obviously it's not really, we don't know the nuances and the ins and outs of it. But I think it's sort of important to note that, you know, people are allowed to have their opinion on it, and people are allowed second chances, etc. But you know, it's one of those where you don't have to have the same opinion on the player joining the club. You know, what do you make of the signing? Obviously, from a footballing perspective, it's a very, very good sign, and you probably argue we probably wouldn't be signing him. He wouldn't probably be at his level had he had not those things in his personal life as well. Yeah, what do you make of the signing overall?
Well, before I touch on the obvious, I will say, you know, Giovanni Brown is still a good footballer. Granted, you know, his spell at Bristol Rovers hasn't been the greatest, and you know, a lot of their fans are saying hopefully this move will regain his confidence. But you look at the spells that he's had in League Two in his career, you know, prior, and what he's achieved, you know, he has been a good footballer, and he is still a good footballer, you know, especially with a team like Notts. You know, you've seen it with the likes of Jody and Dan Crowley. You know, when you bring these players in, you give them a home, you give them the belief, they do churn out their best performances. But what I will say is, look, obviously, I grew up in a house with two women, my mum and my sister. So obviously, you know that what he has done, they had the incident regarding another woman, and obviously the whatever happened in that situation, obviously doesn't sit right with me, because I couldn't imagine a world where it happens to any of these. And this is what this is for everyone who finds it wrong, and wrong still now, which is completely acceptable, by the way, is obviously looking at it that angle as well, because it is unimaginable for that to happen to any female in your family or any loved one. So it is completely understandable. But the thing is, he is a Notts County player now, and obviously I mean, I guess you have to support him. I mean, he's obviously, I would imagine that he might score a few goals for Notts County. I don't want to say quite a few goals, but he'll definitely pop up with some. So I completely understand that it might be a hard thing to get behind. The club would have knew that. Don't get me wrong, but I do feel like Giovanni Brown was someone that the club tracked for a long time, because if you cast your mind back, it was Stuart Maynard in his interview that saying he was waiting for clubs to make their business before we made ours. And if you look at Bristol Rovers after they announced that Giovanni Brown joined us on loan, they signed Shaq Ford. So obviously, again, waiting to get their man before we got ours. So it's obviously it's a difficult situation, because, and I saw a lot of people online say that Notts have built a reputation of a family club, and this maybe tarnishes a little bit, which I absolutely understand and do partially agree with, because it's definitely not the kind of player with the background that I expected to come in, but they've obviously put that aside, and they've just looked at complete footballing ability and what the squad lacks. And a player like Giovanni Brown is going to come in and give you that option, because, like I have said, and I will say it again, he is a good footballer. He has had, especially in this division as well, in League Two, he has. That was probably where some of his best football was played. So again, it's obviously a difficult one to get behind, and I understand it. Like I said, grew up in this house with my mum and my sister, and if any of that happened to them, I'd be absolutely, blood boiling. And yeah, I completely understand people that are unhappy with it, but the reality is now, and this ain't me being insensitive, by the way, I absolutely understand every single person who is upset and angry about this signing and having someone in who's done that. Obviously, again, it was that's racial abuse, which obviously, again, something that, I've known many of people that have experienced it myself. And naturally, I have myself as well, casually. But, I mean, it's never the nicest thing when someone tarnishes you for the colour of your skin either. So, that's not me justifying what he did. But I understand that, racism is a hideous thing to deal with. And some people, most people, all people really deal with emotions, like, in different ways. So, yeah. I mean, if anything, it just sums up the problem with the world. I mean, racism and, all this violence. But like I say, that's the way I can only explain it. What I will say is now, it's not going to change anything. Like, he is a Notts County player. And if people don't want to get behind him for what he's done, then I absolutely completely understand it. Everyone has a right to believe in what they believe in. I believe in what he did was wrong, but I also believe in that racism is wrong as well. Racism is a poison on this world, mate. So, yeah, I think that's the best way I can describe it. So, that's it, mate.
Yeah, I think you've articulated your thoughts really well, and you've summed up a lot of how I feel about it as well, especially with mentioning the loved ones, and I think that's where my opinion comes from, and I think people know how we feel about it, and we've spoken about it on social media. And we don't need to. We're not going to come on here and drag him and batter him for it. It's not our place to do that. And like you've said, there'll be plenty of people who won't want to get behind him, and I think that's completely understandable. Like you said, in terms of football ability, there's no question of how good he is. He's hit double figures for goal contributions in League Two on 4 different occasions before, so he's more than proven at the level. But obviously, and he's hit double figures at League One level as well. So, he's at 20 goal contributions at League One level recently. So he's clearly a very good player. It's just depends on where your standpoint is on that from that point of view in terms of off the pitch. And I think it's a difficult subject for us to talk about, as you've probably gathered from how we've spoken about it. But obviously, it was an important one for us to talk about. We didn't want to not mention it. But yeah, it's something that we are going to put to one side now in terms of not bring up again. But we have spoken about it, and it's important that if these are issues that people are sort of suffering with, etc., get the relevant help. And that's the most important thing, I think, is that as much as it's about football and about him as a player, it's important that there'll be fans within the fan base that have suffered from these issues, like you mentioned, racism, also from the sort of the abuse angle as well. So there'll be people from both sides who've suffered. So that's the most important thing, is that those fans get the relevant help, etc. So hopefully that, as we've covered that. The other thing in terms of the transfer window at deadline day, come the end of it, was Dan Crowley and Jody Jones remained Notts County footballers. How did you feel about that? Especially as MK Dons, who were rumoured to be in for Dan Crowley, probably half an hour or an hour before the window closed, announced we finally got him. It got the heart racing a little bit, did it?
Could say so. You definitely could say so. I feel like, especially when the first bid came in and it was sort of 2 weeks away from the deadline, you thought, this could go, right down to the wire, and apparently it did. But they didn't get hold of Dan Crowley, and he's still not a scouting player for how much longer. It doesn't really matter, because the guarantee is that we have 4 months now until the next window, and if Notts are in a good position by that window, then there's absolutely no need to sell him then either. So it's only natural for someone of Dan Crowley's ability to gain interest. Obviously, again, for MK Dons, who aren't, it's not even a competition, Notts are incomparably bigger than MK Dons for a disclaimer. Their home attendances for the size of the stadiums are embarrassing. So, and that's me just being honest. It's brutal, but it's true. Like, it's a soulless bowl in the Stadium MK. I don't know why you'd want to swap that for I don't know why you'd want to swap Meadow Lane and what you get at Meadow Lane for that, other than money, which is obviously what they tried to bribe him away with, but it still didn't work. So, I'm very happy to keep Dan Crowley at the football club. I think the performance against Grimsby was a massive highlight into why I'm happy that we've kept him here. And I'm also equally as happy that we've managed to hold on to Jody as well, because like I also said on social media yesterday, it's 4 games now and he's got 2 goals and 3 assists. So it looks like he's about to have another good season in terms of return, and that's the sort of player you need. Obviously, there's no secret. You need a player like Jolie and you need players like Dan Crowley. But the fact that we've managed to keep both of them, and really now the only massive, significant loss of the summer was Maka. So you look at that overall, and we've had a very good transfer window, and then it all reflects quite nicely into what we were saying earlier. We're one of 3 teams left unbeaten in League Two. And when you have the summer that we have, and you've managed to keep hold of, your 2 most valuable assets, the two players that are, such as yesterday, obviously David McGoldrick, took the highlights, and rightfully so with his 2 goals. But who set up the second goal? Jody Jones. And this is the difference. Albeit it was a bit like Sergio Busquets passing to Lionel Messi in that situation, but every assist counts, and Jody's not going to care at the end of the season if he gets 25 assists instead of 24 this season, because the 2-yard pass to David McGoldrick registered as his assist. So overall, I'm buzzing that we've kept both of them, and it's only going to do good things for Notts, as again the start of the season has shown.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a very good start to the season, and we've been, as you say, one of only a few teams unbeaten so far. Accrington Stanley this weekend, they travel to Meadow Lane. How are you feeling about it, just generally, obviously, and more specifically, how are you feeling about it generally, but more specifically, how do you feel about Alessandro Jatta probably going to come back in? You mentioned it already, you don't want to drop Jatta, but you also, Jatta's going to come back in, you don't want to drop Didzy either. So how do you fit them both in the same team? And obviously Accrington, a team that are winless so far, drawn 2, lost 2. So how do you feel overall? And also, will Jata start?
Well, first things first with Jata, obviously, again, international breaks here now, and obviously he has rejected the opportunity to go represent Gambia, which is massive news for Notts County. But with that, I will say now that Jata doesn't really have to worry about, Gambian call-ups, because I feel like he'll be offered the opportunity to do so every single time. So it's not like this is going to be his final chance to do so, but it's still a massive testament to his commitment to Notts County. And he's probably happy he did it now, especially with, how McGoldrick played yesterday and his goal. But yeah, I think Jack will come back in. I think so. I think he's a massive, he's a pinpoint of how we want to play this season. He's the vocal point of the team. He's the guy realistically, that we are aiming for. He's a bit like the Macca that we had, for the 2 seasons he was here. Everything that went into the box was designed and delivered in hope that he'd get on the end of it. That is the Jata role this season. Obviously, again, it's an international break. We have a few internationals in our squad. I believe it's an international break. I'm pretty sure it's an international break anyway. So we have a few internationals in our squad. Nick Sharula, your Jacob Bedu, your Jody Jones. Are they going to be there this Saturday? Are they not? If they're not, is it the end of the world? Wouldn't say so. I would have said so last season. I'm not saying so this season, because I feel like the depth we have, it is beautiful. Because, prime example, say, Sheridan and Bedu go, I believe Notts have the ability to cover that. But say if Sharula doesn't go, Jacob Bedu does, then you just bring Rob Cundy in. It's not a bad player to be. It's so nice to be able to speak about the squad depth now as well. And again, it's a testament to the recruitment team, because we have had a very good summer. I know you got to think as well. You got your Lucas Ness and your Rob McDonald to come back into that back line as well, which is already very strong. But going off topic there, coming back on topic to the Accrington Stanley game, I'm very confident. I am confident. We have no reason not to be. Like I've said, Notts have shown that we can play that beautiful football still, and we can show that we can go back against the wall and still come out with wins. So there's no reason to be confident. No disrespect to Accrington Stanley, but they're not the strongest team in this division by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely not a football team that Notts should worry about coming to Meadow Lane. But then again, I'd say that about every team in this division, because it's Meadow Lane Stadium. It's got 10,000 people in every single time there's a game on there. So there should be no worry about anyone coming here. But I do think this is a game that you should be marking down on the calendar as a game that you need to get 3 points in, because anything less than 3 points would be an underwhelming result. It's as simple as that, especially with how Notts have started the season in comparison to Accrington Stanley. Obviously, they haven't had the greatest start, so I don't mean fortunes cannot change. I just don't think they're going to change from this weekend, and I think Notts will come away with another 3 points. But I'll be interested to get your take on that.
So yeah, in terms of my take on it, I think that she made a really good point about the international break. I think we're almost lucky that we haven't got more internationals. Like you say, Jata could be in the Gambia squad. You've got the likes of even Dan Crowley, who is eligible to play for Ireland, and I think there are Irish fans who would want him in and around their squad. Considering I think we're lucky that we're in a way in League Two, because if he was in League One, he'd probably be on international duty. Obviously, McGoldrick's a former international as well, so we were lucky that we haven't probably got more players out in a sense. But like you say, that's the beauty of the squad now, that we have got the ability. Should Bedo and Jones be gone this weekend, of course let's not go. Don't get me wrong, they're going to be the two of the key players, and we're not going to be as good without them. But we have got the squad and the depth to sort of adjust for their absences. We've also got players to come back from injury. Obviously, Scott Robertson's had a stop-start sort of campaign so far. Rob McDonald we haven't seen yet. So there's other players in and around the squad who to come back as well. And I think that's what makes you really positive about about this season, but also about this game against Accrington, because, like you say, with all due respect to Accrington, they aren't one of the better sides in the league. I think a lot of people have had them tipped for relegation. So far, they've conceded 11 goals already in just 4 games. So you're averaging almost 3 goals a game conceded, and you come into Meadow Lane where you'd anticipate it'd be a very tough afternoon for them. The only team in the league to be in double figures for goals conceded so far, and like we say, without a win. It'd be interesting to see them play. Swindon, for example, are also without a win, but I think they, based on their performance, they weren't amazing, like we say, but they weren't bad, and they probably deserve something more out of that game than they got at the weekend, and they'll be fine. For Accrington, it'd be interesting to see how they perform. For me, I can see a repeat of the sort of the Grimsby game almost, where I think with Grimsby they're a little bit open. So if a team comes in and sits in, they've probably got a better chance of getting something. If you're open, like you say, Curtis Edwards was dragging people all over the place, and Notts have got loads of players who are capable of dragging players all over the place. But I think based on a team that have conceded 11 so far, it doesn't scream defensively sound or defensively organised. So I think we should have plenty of opportunity and plenty of joy, and hopefully walk away with all 3 points. Do you share the same sort of aspirations for the weekend?
100%, 100%, mate. I want. Obviously, it sounds cliche. I want Notts to win every single game of football we play, no matter the opponent in front of us. And like you say, Accrington definitely not the strongest outfit in this division. I can also see a repeat of the Grimsby game. Obviously, it's easier said than done, but it has already been done, and you know that Notts have the ability to do that to teams, and you'd probably say Grimsby are a better outfit than Accrington Stanley. So maybe weaker opposition are coming, but doesn't really mean anything, because on if a team has their day, anyone can get a result against anyone. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. It always is interesting to see what happens. Notts are never a boring team to watch, obviously, associated with. So we'll see what happens. But I'm sitting here today on Sunday, prior to the new week, obviously the week of the game. I'm very confident that Notts are going to come away with 3 points there and continue on being a start to the season.
Yeah, and then finally, before we wrap up, just wanted to mention Sven-Goran Eriksson, obviously, who had sort of minutes of applause before the Swindon game. Obviously, former Notts County Director of Football, and obviously, we just want to send. It's obviously incredibly sad what's happened, and obviously passed away, but also, you have fond memories of him, as a great man, and the fact that what he did for the club by not asking for everything he was owed just speaks volumes of how he was as a person. So a generous man. So whilst it's incredibly sad, there's no getting around that. There's a fondness you can remember him by as a great person, and I think that's really important. So we just wanted to mention him as well. I think that's everything covered for this week. Obviously, Accrington, as we mentioned, coming up this weekend. Is there anything else you want to touch on, mate?
Not really, mate. To be fair, not really. Obviously, just happy to be back on the podcast. It hasn't been our most consistent form so far this season, but like I say, man, like we're just naturally 3 busy people. Like it is difficult sometimes to fit in the time, but there's plans. We've always got plans, and now obviously, we're all hopeful that we can just come back on here every single week and talk about Notts County victories. Easier said than done, obviously not from our case, but from Notts, because again, no matter how good the start of the season has been, we're going to lose games. Sometimes we're going to come on here this season and talk about defeats, but overall, just buzzing with the start of the season, buzzing to be back on the podcast, and excited for what's upcoming. Literally, not this week, the week after, when it's going to be me, you, and somebody else who we won't mention because we're not going to spoil it. So that's what I can say.
Yeah, well, with that in mind, hopefully you'll keep your eyes peeled on social media for who that potentially could be. You can follow all the relevant links below, but do make sure you go over there and check out. I'm sure that that myself and everyone else will be dropping sort of teasers and hints over the coming weeks of who this person might be. With that in mind, we'll hand over to you to wrap up, mate.
Yeah, I mean, as you can tell, thank you, David McGoldrick. You have ruined my voice today. I am sorry for the times that the voice has broken throughout this episode. I'm sure you've all probably enjoyed it and started laughing at it. And I hope you have, because I want that to be provided in this podcast. Obviously, maybe through something that isn't my voice, just completely disappearing. But yeah, yesterday was a good day, man. And to be honest, play like that every single week, I probably won't have a voice left for the podcast. So Tom might have to find a new co-host. Well, no. Thank you for watching again. Thank you for all the support throughout the summer. Even though again, we would have obviously liked to have been on the screen more. Just obviously again, 3 busy people, big summers, graduations and everything else that goes on in this sort of life. But like I said, we just want to be back on it now. Keep doing our thing. Keep talking about Notts County. Keep getting guests on. And just keep having fun. But yeah, a massive thank you again for watching. If you got this far, which I'm sure you will have, because I'm sure your favourite part of this episode is me trying to say, come on, you pies, with a sore throat. But yeah, keep on supporting us. And yeah, we'll see you very soon. Come on, you pies.